All right. Happy Friday, everybody. Happy Eagles Super Bowl victory parade day. This is a very exciting time for all of us Eagles fans, as you can see. In case you haven't heard yet, they did win the Super Bowl this past Sunday, and that is very exciting for all of us. And in honor of the Eagles, and in honor of a comment from Quinyon Mitchell, I wanted to dedicate this whiteboard to that topic. So in the Super Bowl postgame interview, Quinyon Mitchell, one of the Eagles' rookie cornerbacks, was asked, what did your coach say to you? What was the message that he delivered to the team? And Quinyon said, just do your job and trust that everybody else will do theirs. And I think that's great advice. And it's great advice for working on a team. It's great advice for running ads, and it's great advice for a football team. So what do I mean by that? I mean, if you think about ads, right? Any ad, Google, Meta, TikTok, LinkedIn, Microsoft, whatever it is, there's really a few people, a few players, if you will, and each one of them has a job to do. And what our job as marketers is to do is to make sure that each of those things is doing the job that it's supposed to do. So what do I mean by that? I mean, first you have your platform and your audience, right? I put these together because these are really inextricably linked, right? The platform can only serve ads to the audience that is available to it. The audience is going to go to the platform that they use, right? Those two are very tightly linked. So you have a job to make sure you have the right platform and the right audience, but you're not going to be able to separate those two. And their job, fundamentally, the job of the platform is to serve ads to the individuals with the highest expected value based on the goals and the data you provide. That's it. The job of the platform is to make sure whatever it is that you're doing from here on is served to the right people. Then you get to the ad. The job of the ad, stop the scroll. On a SERP, that means get somebody before they go down into those organic results. On a social feed, it means get them to stop doom scrolling and view your content, right? Get their curiosity picked, stop the scroll, and get them to the landing page, whether that landing page is in platform, like an instant shop or a TikTok shop or an Instagram shop or a separate lander. The job of the lander, though, is to then convert that curiosity, right? What stopped the scroll into commercial intent and then capture that commercial intent. And then you have the email, right? The win back. And the job of the email is really to reconvert people who saw an ad, got to the lander, didn't convert, get them back onto the page. And I think what gets lost often is we are not always judging each of these points in the value chain, in the journey, based on what they're actually supposed to do, right? If you're telling me, oh, the ad doesn't convert well, well, if the ad doesn't convert well, is that the ad's fault? The ad's job is to get people to the landing page. The landing page's job is to get the conversion. So you're telling me if the ad's not converting well, then that has to mean one of two things, right? Thing one is the ad has a message that isn't aligned with the landing page, right? That's option number one. Or number two, the ad's not getting the clicks. It's not getting the volume of visitors that we expect. That would be a problem with the ad. So if the conversion rate is low, right, then that just tells you, well, maybe there's just a mismatch here between the audience and the landing page. That could be an issue. But more likely, what you're really saying, if the ad doesn't convert well, is maybe there's something wrong with your lander. And I think we often look in the wrong places, right? Because you're now asking an ad to do a job that it's not supposed to do, right? Do we see how that can easily happen? Because you might have an ad that's just otherworldly good, right? And it has an average conversion rate in the same flow. But in this case, the ad's great. The lander is still bad, but great plus bad equals mediocre. In this case, the ad is average. Average plus bad equals below average, right? You can easily go there. And then finally, we go to email, and we're often like, well, what's the job of email? Right? And I think a lot of people forget that the job of an email is to get somebody out of the email. The entire point of a good email The entire measure of success of a good email is that it gets the user from the email back to a place where they can do something good, whether that be your shop, your website, whatever. The whole point of the email is to get somebody out of an email. So what we need to be measuring our email by is how effectively do you get people into the email to absorb the content and then out of the email to do something good. So when we say do your job, the question really is, does your content, right, does your targeting, does your lander, does it do its job? And then the question is, okay, well, how do you measure that? And there's a few ways, and here's some pretty easy ones, right? Just a quick cheat sheet. You can obviously change this. You can obviously adapt this for a lead generation. But for an ad, you're really looking, number one, click-through rate, right? You can look at hook rate or thumb stop rate to see how well a video works. But really, the question is, does this ad get attention? Does it convert generalized attention into specific action, namely a click? Does it get somebody to the landing page, to the TikTok shop, to the Facebook shop, to who cares what? Does it get them there? If so, the ad's doing its job. And then the second metric here we look at is profit per impression or contribution margin per impression or leads per impression, right? Because what you're then saying is not just are we getting traffic, because it's really easy to make an ad that gets traffic. Are we getting an ad that gets traffic and that drives the kind of traffic that results in good things for our client or our business, right? So you're aligning one primary metric and one funnel metric. Maybe you have two primary metrics, right? For a video ad, you might look at hook rate, click-through rate, and then your profit per or your funnel metric, so to speak. Right? But really what you want to do here is make sure that you're evaluating this ad based on what you're actually asking it to do. And then you go down to the landing page. Right? The job of the landing page primarily is to convert curiosity into commercial intent. Right? And you'll see here, of all the things that I bothered to draw, I actually spent the most time on the lander because I think it's the most important and the most underrated, right? And when we think about landing pages, right, there's often a lot of brands that you see that just basically put little thought into the landing page, right? There's little thought about who the audience is and what the ad they saw was and what the lander needs to do. But the lander, if you think about it, really has a heavy job here. The ad got somebody curious. It was interesting enough to stop scrolling. That's the bar that it reached. And it was even more curious to them that they decided to click on it. Okay, but that does not mean they're ready to buy, right? I think about in The Matrix, right? There's this great scene in the original Matrix movie where Neo is walking through the Matrix, and in one of these training programs, they've programmed a woman wearing a beautiful red dress and a sea of people in black suits. And as this person walks by Neo, he turns and looks at her, and it catches his attention. That's what the ad does. But just because that person caught your attention, right? Just because that ad caught your attention, just because it piqued your curiosity, does not automatically mean that Neo is going to date this red woman. In fact, it's actually an agent, but spoiler alert, if you haven't watched The Matrix by now, it's okay. Right? Your lander's job is to take that curiosity and turn it into something real, to real commercial activity. So that's going to involve educating the user, highlighting use cases, building social proof, building the case, de-risking the offer, doing all of these things, all of which really do have to be done on the lander. And they're being done with, honestly, with a limited starting point from an informational standpoint, right? You got somebody that was like, hey, it's kind of cool. The lander, great. The job is to convert to commercial intent. The email, the email's job here is the most nebulous, right? Is can you, and I look at email and I say, what is our conversion rate off of email? Because if you think about email conversion rates, it's actually really a hybrid here, because the email conversion rate is the open rate times the click rate times the conversion rate. That's how you get to that total. So I look at email as, does the email work? And you can even break this down. Again, you can look at it and say, well, this is really the open rate times the click-through rate times the conversion rate is really how you get this, right? Because there's that. And then you look at profit per send, right? How many times when this email is sent, what is your expected revenue, profit, number of leads? Who cares, right? Your end conversion metric. And what I think framing this in this conversation starts to reveal which parts of your user experience, of your funnel, so to speak, are actually producing the results that you want. Who is doing its job? For instance, it would be insane to say, well, the email hasn't brought us any new customers that weren't already on our list. It's not email's job to do that. The only way they got an email is if they were on the list, right? It'd be insane to say that. No one says that. But frequently people say, well, we have ads that don't convert. Well, is it the ad that didn't convert, or is it the landing page that didn't convert? We have landing pages that people are like, well, it just doesn't get enough traffic, right? It's not doing enough. Well, how's that the landing page's fault? That's your ad's fault. The whole reason your landing page isn't getting traffic, it's not getting the volume that you want, is because your ad or your platform is letting you down, right? You have people who say, well, the ad is just not performing as well as it is on other platforms. Well, okay, but is that the ad's fault, or is that the platform / audience / your campaign setup's fault for targeting the wrong people or giving it the wrong data, right? So much of, I think, what we do as marketers is focused on this idea, and we tend to attribute blame maybe in places it doesn't belong because we are not clear on the job each component is supposed to fulfill. And when you don't have clarity on the role and the responsibility and the job that each piece has to be done, you end up blaming things that might not be broken or asking them to do things they might not be capable of doing. So I hope it's a little helpful in how we think about things, and potentially a little helpful in how you might be able to reframe or rethink about your evaluation, how you're assessing the performance of each component in your funnel and get it a little bit better, right? The more we can, I think, assess things based on how things are, their primary role versus their funnel role, I think the more we will end up with more successful, more nuanced understandings of these things, and ultimately better results for either yourself or your clients. I'm going to go watch the Super Bowl parade now. So have fun, enjoy, and I will talk to you next week.